Dummy Switch Pod. It's level 5, but we're still working. Essential rugby workers, giving you the business. How are you, Chris?
I'm good at you, Courts.
No, I'm good. I'm good. My Lions aren't too good. Let's get into that one. Wednesday.
As you can see, I'm wearing red in solidarity. So.
We didn't know if it was EFF or Lions, but
I've clarified.
You've clarified for the people's sake. Bulls at home on this one. Not a great game. Not a great game to watch. Bulls not very entertaining. And I mean, we know this. We know about the Jake White style. I've mentioned it's similar to Jose Mourinho, where it's sort of get the job done without the entertainment, without that sort of entertainment value. Just get the job done, get the points. Lions team, we can make the excuse that traveling back to back, played Saturday, played Wednesday. Not a great watch. I felt Bulls multi penalties in this one. Yeah. Reffing as well. I didn't feel like reffing was great in this one either. Which goes sort of to the Bulls game against the Pumas, where we saw what happens when they do have a stricter ref or a ref that's not necessarily playing by their rules. And early on, good defense from the Bulls. Oboka and Nyakani competing well, but Lions had dominance in the scrums, but I mean, it seemed like the ref took it that way for the first, I think, 1 or 2, and then after that, he changed his mind.
Yeah, look, I have to echo your sentiments about, if you're talking about the refereeing, there's no consistency, and that's been the theme for the season. The weather conditions as well were a bit, not the greatest for the kind of game that the Lions want to play. But I still feel this, as much as it was travel back to back, at the end of the day, there's just 7 points in it. There's very little separating the two teams. I think the Lions didn't necessarily capitalize on certain opportunities that they created, because there was times where they had field possession and it was just execution letting them down. It's that thing from early in the season that was sort of creeping in. But look, credit the Bulls defensively, they did well, to keep the Lions out. I think they of course had a big focus on defense, because Lions is a team that will cut you apart if your defense is not sound. And I mean, you talk about the Bulls Pumas game, you saw that the Pumas absolutely cut the Bulls team apart on the weekend. But focusing on that Lions game, I think they were unlucky. I don't think it's a bad thing for them to have lost at Loftus. I think we had tipped the Lions to win. I also thought they were going to win. Thought it was going to be 5 points in it. I think you said 8 points. And it went the other way, but still close in terms of the score margin. I think for them, they'll learn a lot from that game, albeit it wasn't an ideal game, and I think they'll be in good stead for the playoffs against the Bulls.
I mean, look, early on, you can sort of say they were taking points. Swanepoel, those long range kicks, it's become sort of a trademark for the team now, a trademark for him. They were up 9-0.
Yeah.
Bulls clawed their way back in. That had a lot to do with sort of the ref changing his views on the scrums, seeing the Bulls as now being dominant. Bulls sort of leveled it up and then took the lead right on halftime. It's a tricky one for this one, because I feel like Lions didn't necessarily play badly. They just didn't have that cutting edge. They didn't have that spark of brilliance.
Yeah, I think they didn't have that final blow, that final hammer blow. And I play devil's advocate here and say, was it the right decision to have Burger Ordendale starting ahead of Similane?
I was actually gonna go to that point. when I'm talking about that, they didn't have that sort of spark, and
Mm.
Simulani he's that player.
Yeah, and you saw it when he came on. It looked like things were going to happen. I think it was just time. You know, I think had he started the game, it may have been a very different attacking game and execution game from the Lions, because they just seemed like when he's when he's playing, they just seem to have that X factor, that real X factor. Berger
Yeah,
Odendal, he's a solid player. I'm not going to take that away from him. He's a good player, but Similani just has that little bit extra juice. He's got that real X factor, and he can turn a game on its head. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him or for the Lions. But like I say, I think they're going to be in good state for the playoffs or the semifinals against the Bulls, because they certainly would have learned. I think some of the mistakes, the errors that they're making are things that are really fixable. It's just individual errors, skill execution errors, and just really also looking after their own ball. And then I think for them, a big focus is also going to be around, what we've seen, the inconsistency at scrum time from referees. So I think for them, they're probably going to look at trying to, you know, really work on getting the hit, getting that ball in and out, and not try and trying to take away
yeah.
the referee's decision making in those situations. Look, I think that's what they should be focusing on from a scrum point of view, and then set pieces as well. It's just finer execution, finer little detail that they need to work on, and surely they can definitely improve, I believe, in time for the playoffs.
Going back to some of those points that you've made, you look at Skorsan was sort of, he was 1v1 with Jacobs. He sort of had that chance to sort of spark it. He couldn't do it on the day. You think if
Mm,
that's Similani in that kind of space, 1v1, going back to the scrums, the try that the Bulls did score, it was a Bull scrum under pressure. Dwayne
yeah,
Vermeulen under pressure, pops it to Papia. Papia, great work from him to get over for the try.
good
Good
strength.
individual try. Yeah, I think he did take his opportunity. He played quite well.
Yeah,
Um, but even when you talk about execution, when the Lions were trying to get back into it at the end, they sort of had that line out, overthrow, game over when
yeah.
you're looking to level it. So I just echo those points that you've made. Um, yeah, I think they should be confident coming back into this one.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
certainly agree with you.
and I doubt they'll get the same ref. So I mean, they should. Uh,
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, but I mean, they should be in good state for that semi then.
No, definitely. And I think, look, at the end of the day, that game was really, it was a game that needed to be played. It didn't really affect much in terms of log position. So definitely a good sort of practice run. You know,
Yeah,
the Bulls, yes, as much as they had certain changes affected by COVID, yeah, but they had the core of their group playing. Their big name players. So Lions coaching staff and one of the Lions playing group. Essentially, we have a picture of what the Bulls defense is about. How they want to defend,
yeah,
and really now it's just about working out ways in terms of how to nullify the defense. And I think there's a lot of ways, and the Pumas showed us that, because it's the same defensive system, just different players executing it, and the Pumas showed that on the weekend as well. But the Lions, I think the Lions will be quietly confident. The Bulls, yes, they're good, and we know what they're going to deliver under Jake White. It's they're going to do their basics. Pragmatic rugby. They're going to kick field position, kick the ball, and they did that. Points on the board whenever they can get points. That scoreboard
yeah.
pressure, and 7 points. At the end of the day, look, it could have gone either way. It's little. It really could have gone the Lions' way. It just didn't. But I still think, like I said, it'll put them in good stead.
Moving on to the next one. Greek was at home taking on the Cheetahs. This one as well, sort of, I thought would be a bit of a more entertaining game. Not too much
Yeah.
to write home about this one.
Look, I think with this one, right, it's like the game that we saw on Sunday between the Bulls and the Pumas. that was the kind of game I was expecting to see between the
Yeah.
Griquas and the Cheetahs, and we didn't. But granted, I think, of course, the Cheetahs, as much as they have a chip on their shoulder, or they had a chip on their shoulder, I think confidence-wise, they may have been dented and pretty flat, and the Griquas were, really desperate, to put together a win, and they came close. I think with the Griquas, for them, it's really a season where I think at the end of this, when they look at it, take stock of the whole season, they'll be kicking themselves because in that game against the Cheetahs, we saw a lot of good of what the early sort of glimpses in the season that they showed, and it goes down to that one thing again about them being consistent, about execution, and it just didn't work out for them. I think, look, Francis Stein for the Cheetahs, he really, with his kicks and taking the points, he single-handedly ensured that the Cheetahs got the result. Because the Cheetahs were not, they're not inspiring. They're a shadow of themselves, and it's understandable. There was really nothing to play for them outside of pride, and the win for them, it does them all of good. But I think they'll be asking themselves a lot of questions about how the wheels came off for them during the season. You could blame it. You can not even blame it. You can really put it down to COVID breaking the momentum with games being cancelled just as when they were about to pick up. When they came
Squad
back, they
changes.
struggled, squad changes and things like that. So, they're gonna. I think they should and they will do a review of the stock that they have and what their future is like, and right now it's up in the air because nobody knows, only they know what they're discussing, with SA Rugby in terms of any further competitions. But the Griquas, for me, like I said, they showed in glimpses. I mean, Kassande's try, I love that try, coming off 9 around the corner.
Yeah. That whole hearts off the wing, little attacking the pillar there.
Yeah,
Short pass.
there's little glimpses in that game where you thinking to yourself, you guys can do this. You guys can put the plays together, but it's a matter of now being consistent. And I think it's also a belief thing for them and
Even
confidence
towards the
factor.
end, they had one where they were going for it, and it was a nice quick tap. Some hands, they almost got to the try line there as well.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that's their
exactly.
story. The team that's almost there.
Exactly. And we've been echoing this, throughout the whole episodes, is that they just, as much as they're unlucky, they're inconsistent, and you
Yeah.
won't put it down to coaching. You know, Granted, Scott Matthews is the first season in charge. So I think they'll certainly grow from what they've put together this season. And if they're able to keep as many resources as possible, not losing too many players, they should find themselves, depending on what competition will be, whether it's going to be the SA Cup or whatever it may be that SA Rugby will announce. I think we'll definitely see a different Griquas team, but again, for me, it's just a matter of, will they be able to put on a performance that's for 80 minutes where they leave everything out there and get the result, because at the end of the day, that's what it's going to be about. It's going to be about the results, and yeah, this season just didn't happen for them.
I mean, early on in the game, they almost took the lead. A Maul try ruled out there, a knock. Halftime, not much in it. 6 points to 10. You had mentioned Kassende's little break off the wing there. The Maul try, I'm not sure how the ref saw this one. There were a lot of bodies around it, and I don't know how she saw that one.
Yeah.
And that's really all I have to say for them. Either end of the day, you're either not at the party or you're at the party. You can't almost be at the party.
Yeah.
So I mean, they need to sort themselves out. Cheaters in this one. I mean, looking at their loose forwards, Nsila, Cronier, and Rudolph, good loose trio. Duncan Sal, excited to see him. Varsity Cup coming into this one. He had a good one. I was impressed by him. He looks like he's carried on his form. Cheetahs, really, really good stocks there in the wings.
Yeah, dangerous back three. And I agree with you, Duncan Saul. I just feel they contained him. The Greekers did well to contain him as well, from a defensive point of view, because he's explosive and dangerous runner if you get him one-on-one situations.
Yeah, and like our Instagram clip said, I don't know if you were taking notes there and passing them on to their coaching staff there when you said they were gonna die and he said they're out to kill them. So
Yeah.
that's basically what they did, stuck to structure and they pulled it out in this one. Nsila, good outing again.
Mm.
Francois Steyn kicking. Those are the two things that stood out for me from their side, besides, Sal coming in and doing a job there.
Yeah, and I mean, like for me, I just feel if we're to look at it, if we're looking at the cheaters throughout the season, say maybe find of the season or player of the season for me, for them, is Nsila, because he's consistently grown each game that he's played. He's consistently grown and had an effect on the game. I mean, they use him as a ball carrier, as strong ball carries. In the breakdowns, he does a lot of work as well. So, for him, from an individual point of view, I think he can be pretty happy with himself in terms of what he's done this season.
Yeah, he's progressed. He's progressed. He's sort of, I mean, you had mentioned in earlier episodes that he was the guy sort of coming off at the hour mark, where now
Mm,
they've made that decision that it's someone else, that they need to keep him in the game. He's
yeah.
having lasting value within the game.
Mm. Exactly. And I think, yeah, look, cheaters, like you say, Francis Day and Zilla, they stick out. I feel Clayton Blomicki's, he's as dangerous as he is, he's sort of, his star is kind of waning a bit because he's no longer
Is
breaking
it personal
games.
between you two?
Look, nothing personal against the guy, I've always rated him, but I just feel that he I just feel that he's just failed to live up to his promise. He's the promise of his potential. If you've seen him play before, in seasons gone by, it's one of the reasons that landed him up in playing in Wales. Getting a contract in Europe and things like that. Is that he was a game breaker, and he still has those attributes, but he just hasn't consistently shown them for the cheaters to be able to really stand out. And you say that, okay, this guy, he's the commander at the back. It's just little things for me in terms of his play, and sometimes the silly mistakes that he does make and decision making as well. But looking at that, you could equally say the same about a guy like Malcolm Yar, who he started off very well, and then he just slowly declined and plateaued, and he just hasn't been able to find his way back. Speckman, I think he's been a Duracell bunny, always energy, always chasing kicks,
Yeah.
always up there, always looking to influence the game or break the game. So yeah, I think they too will be looking at themselves, the cheaters, and trying to forge a way forward, because at the moment, as much as, yes, they can feel hard done by not being included in the Rainbow Cup and things like that. But when you look at it across, the balance of things, you can understand that decision, because they failed to show that consistency and that ability to really pull the big ones out the fire, or ability to even, I mean, to put a team like the Griquas, not taking anything away from the Griquas this past weekend, but put the team like the Griquas away and make a statement in the final game of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Blomikis, for me, I have rated his performances. I think he's been solid. He's done well. Obviously, you mentioned his move overseas, and there was a reason it didn't go all to plan that way. I mean, they had mentioned a lot to do with fitness, but you sort of see a guy come home and put out similar performances. So I really wonder what the problem was that side.
Mm.
Fine, he's not that sort of game breaker he first was when he came on the scene, but I still feel like solid player, and I rate his performances so far.
Yeah, look, I'm not taking away from his performances. Look, he's been solid enough, but he's got to give more.
Yeah.
For I believe that. I mean, how long has he been on the scene? He's been on the scene for for easily the past 8 years or so. You'd expect. I mean, if you look at in contrast, to players that have been in playing one position, have all the experience. I mean, he's got how many caps? About 100 caps for the Cheetahs and things like that. Is that he should be your Mr. Reliable? He should be your Mr. Game Breaker. But yes, he puts in solid performances that solid enough that you can't leave him out the team. But there's nothing more that he gives you. So it's not personal for me. I just feel like it's just he can do better, and I think that's what's really the most frustrating thing about
Yeah.
him for me is that he can do better. We've seen him do better. I mean, from even his early days when he was at Varsity Cup, we've seen him do better. And what he can do. And for me, he just hasn't shown that. I guess maybe I just wanted to see more of his flair. And
Yeah.
I mean, even his side step hasn't evolved. It's predictable every time. When he tries to run that ball from the back, the defenders already know what he's going to do. He's going to try come off the right foot. Cut back in, and he was always getting tackled. But you know what? They'll look at it and look. All the good luck to the Cheetahs. That's all I can say, because being in the wilderness is not going to be nice. They're going to experience what the Lions experienced when they were out of Super Rugby.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll be a good thing for them to sort of find that resurgence, as did the Lions, because the Lions right now, people have forgotten where they come from.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes for them. Moving on to Sunday's game. Mbombela, the Pumas hosting a Bulls team with plenty of changes. 11 under 21s, which the coach at halftime sort of wanted to emphasize that this is an under 21 team, which I feel is a bit of a, you know,
It doesn't matter.
yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the record is going to show Pumas versus Blue Bulls, whether they're under 21 or whatever. Fact of the matter is that majority of those players, a lot of those players have tasted Currie Cup rugby before. They've tasted senior rugby, so they've been part of that system.
And the thing is,
And
it's if you want to say that, if they had won, what were they going to say? Yeah, our
yeah,
under 21s beat them. So
exactly.
you can't have it. You can't have it both ways. I mean,
There's no look. There's no sugarcoating it. The fact of the matter is that they were found out. They made a decision to make changes, rest players. But when you look at it across the board, they had enough firepower, in my view, and that's why I thought that when I said it is going to be a tight one. It's in Bombela, but the Bulls should have too much for the Pumas. And for me, is that they were exposed, and to some degree, the coaching was exposed, because if you look at the Maul try that they thought that they scored, technical
yeah,
error in terms of the long arm transfer. There's so many technical areas that you ask yourself. The thing is, those sort of errors, particularly at set piece, that tells me is that those are things that are overlooked at practice, because this is what the guys practice, and they're executing what they practice in the week. So yes, in some games they may have gotten away with it, but in this game, we had a referee that was on the ball. He spotted a lot of things, and he called them and made the right calls. And for once, the result went the right way to the team that, for me, was deserving game of the weekend. For me,
yeah,
the
definitely.
Pumas were absolutely hot. They just, I don't know. It's almost like they flipped a switch, and regardless of whether it's under 21s that are playing, for me, that's not even a factor, because it's a bigger union, smaller union. You guys have more resources. These under 21s are they've won the under 21 championship 2 years in a row, and most of them have had a taste of senior rugby before. They've been practicing with the senior squad, so there is no excuse. That shouldn't have even been a factor. And I felt that really cheapened they really try to put a cheap shot towards the Pumas to say, oh, well, it's all under 21s. That's why they was basically scoring at a rate, freaking a point a minute, at one stage. That's how rampant the Pumas were.
Yeah, a Pumas team. largely the same. One change. Versace in at 13, he looked quite decent. First time
Mm,
I've seen him. Uh, Bulls 4 day turnaround, lots of changes, and I mean you could see there was no cohesion, and
yeah.
sort of they didn't know how to react. Things happen in a game, and I guess this experience where you can see these guys they don't know how to react.
Mm,
After first try, they look in shock almost. Mkijima, the big hitter, came
yeah.
away with the ball off the turnover. Nice pass to Obi in for that try. I think it was Martins that was involved in
Mm.
that work on the ground there. He had a big
The
one.
flanker. He had a
Yeah.
big one. He had a big one. And easily the Pumas could have put 50 on the Bulls. They should have. I just they were unfortunate. Some decision making sort of errors popped up there for them. But at that time, the game was already far gone. The result was already theirs. But geez, you talk about some Kijima. I loved his play the weekend. I
Mm.
think the whole Pumas team, that was. I think if we're looking for the most complete team performance and full 80-minute performance for the Pumas, this was this was one of this was one of them. They've shown before, and unfortunately, due to officiating decisions, they ended up on the wrong side of the result. But this time around, there was no question about it. They were much better than the Bulls, and they actually showed how to essentially diffuse the Bulls' defensive system. That rush
Yeah.
defense that they were trying to employ.
It
You
also
know,
calls into question that this system needs certain players. It needs players that are
yes,
more experienced, older players, uh, sort of trying to run the same system with different younger players. They don't have the capacity.
yeah, but I mean, if you look at that Bulls backline, you know, Ivan Van Sale, it's not like he's green.
Yeah.
He's experienced enough. Mornay Steyn, the same. You could argue that the two centers, they may have been the weak links, but you've got Jade Stichling. He's played before. Stravino Jacobs. He played even the Super Rugby
Yeah, yeah,
unlocked.
yeah. The
You
challenge.
know, Clinton Swart as well. He's a well-traveled player with experience. So when I look at it, for me, you're right. Yes, certain defensive systems have got, so it works with certain players, but at the same time, you have the resources. These guys surely have been operating under that same
But
defensive
I
system.
don't know if you
Surely,
noticed, it seems like they were trying to give the ball a bit more air. They were trying to run it a bit more, and they strayed away from their identity a bit. I don't know whether that's a thing that they. I would question whether it's maybe they play like that more in the under 21s, but Mornay Steyn was sort of the one that was looking to run it. So they strayed away from their identity a bit. They looked to give the ball a bit of air. Did not work at all.
yeah, it's not. Look, if their pack doesn't have momentum, then it's difficult for the Bulls to get to give the ball air and make meters, ball in hand via the back line. And we saw that. I don't know how many times where they tried to run it and they were getting hit back. Eventually ended up with aimless kicking. Where the Morning Stain ended up kicking the ball away, or even Ivan Van Sale opting to kick. But then you had Mafura, you had Devin Williams, who I feel had a great game, and they were there to diffuse that and get the Pumas back upfield, and from there on, it was just pressure on the bull set piece.
It was
You
pressure.
know,
I mean, talking about the set piece, the scrums.
mm,
This is also another point that they made afterwards. They took a guy that plays loose head, under 21 guy, and they moved him to tight head in a game against experienced experienced players. And they sort of tried to justify their selection of him afterwards. I didn't read the
yeah,
article, but I think they sort of stood in their decision, and I don't think it was the right decision at all. On top of that, when he went off, I think for a blood bin, they brought on Marcel van der Merwe, and Nodia ate him as well.
Man, that Marcel van der Merwe, he must be having nightmares. This season has just been a nightmare for him. You know, if you remember before he left and went overseas, he was. I think he had made Springboks. He was rated. You
Yeah.
know, Heineken had picked him, and you know you could argue he was solid enough. You know, he looked the part. But ever since he's been back, look, I think that guy has been wishing that he just stayed in France having wine and cheese because, geez, he's been the wine and cheese locally. Yeah, you know.
I feel that he's sleeping well at night knowing that he's stealing a living because my goodness, those checks are clearing. The checks are
Yeah.
clearing. As long as they're clearing, I think that guy's sleeping well at night. Is if they don't offload him soon.
Look, and from what I read an article, you know, just briefly skimmed over it, you know, where essentially Jake is backing him, you know, say, look, he'll come right, etc., etc. Fact of the matter is that a whole season to come right, you know, and he hasn't even shown a glimpse. You know, if you compare that and contrast that with when Yanni Duplessis, when early on with the Lions, yes, there were penalties here and there. I was even questioning, you know, why is he there? But then he's come right. He's shown his value as an experienced player, as a player that is, you know, is a Springbok, has come from overseas, and you know he's shown his value. And look, Marcel, yeah, Marcel van der Merwe, I think, you know, I'd be surprised to see him still part of the Bulls next season. Look, and even that decision, going back to what you're talking about, I just feel that it was really the Bulls underestimating the Pumas. They thought that they were going to go there and really dictate how that game was going to go. They expected their pack to be dominant. And
Yeah,
look, you can't argue against that. I mean, if you look at the players that they have, Tim Agaba, who I feel had an absolute shocker of a game, you
he
know,
played well for
particularly
about
from a
5 minutes.
you know, from a handling perspective, you know, he was just dropping balls left, right, and center. He couldn't even catch a cold. You know, he can't even catch COVID. Let me say, but anyway, you know, he was it doesn't really it doesn't inspiring. And then again, you know, Ono
Yeah,
Guetta, he was the captain. You know, his leadership, you didn't see it. You know, I felt the two players for me that stood out in that Bulls pack was the lock pairing. You know, I felt they worked well together. They were putting in big hits, and 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 you can see that, okay, the future looks bright for those two. You know, in the locking position, but as a pack, like you said, there's no cohesion. And look, enough about the Bulls. The Pumas were just they were outstanding.
the Pumas. I mean, we go sort of to the second try. They were dominant in the scrums. It was earning them penalties. They were playing
Mm,
sort of in the right place. Second try, Maul got the advantage, got Imkajima at number 10 receiving the ball, taking on the line behind
yeah,
Vasaki's back to Devon Williams. You've got Devon Williams now. What I liked about it is Obi's always lurking on
yeah,
inside. So even when he passed the ball on, he passed it to Mafura. Mafura again evades. I think he evaded Clinton Swart, who fell down to his knees,
yeah,
got the ball through, and it was Obi still lurking. He was lurking from Williams. Now he's lurking for Mafura, hands free, pop over.
yeah. And look, and that is beautiful to watch because you have in the back line. I think for me, I've always liked to see all players in motion. You know, when we're on
Yeah,
attack, everybody must be moving, you know, and that was a classic example of that. And again, a classic example of the ball doing the work, where they were fixing their defenders, getting that ball
yeah,
out,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know. And Obi, I felt he had a good game. Devon Williams, that whole back line, really, they took the opportunity. They smelt the blood, you know. And you know the Puma, if you, I guess, you know, the laws of nature. You put a bull and a puma in the jungle, the puma is gonna, you know, and and that's what the puma did.
I
They
mean,
finally
for
found.
that was what I like about their players. You know, firstly, there it's hands.
Mm,
Secondly, the support. Obi is always sort of lurking there on the inside, providing
yeah,
support, and it's the creativity. You know, those behind the back passes. You know, it's a way to play, And these guys,
Yeah,
what I like about the backline is, if you look at the backline, they're all sort of complete players.
yeah,
They're sort of fine. I feel like, okay, Mkijima, you can say, he's a big hitter defense and his hands sometimes. Mafura, you
yeah,
can say his hands, sometimes. But besides that, even Devin Williams, I mean, he's playing at 10. Besides that, they're like all round players.
yeah.
They're ball
They're ballers.
handlers.
They're
Yeah, they're
ballers.
ballers. Yeah. So I mean,
You know,
it's good to see. What I like about that is the coaching staff has put them in a position to be successful.
yeah. And,
They're
and
playing they're playing the right way. They're sort of giving them structure and just a way to show their talents.
yeah, and that shone through. I mean, right through from 9 to 15, that back line, they they were they were ticking, man. They were ticking. They wanted that ball. They were alert. And look, even even Obi, when he got chased down by Jade Stichling, look, credit to Jade Stichling for the chase, and getting back there. But again, you talked about Daniel Martins. He stayed in the play.
Following up there, yeah.
He stayed in the play, and I feel like that's what the Pumas are about. Is that when they get it right, and I feel they have gotten it right on a few occasions this season. They were just unlucky, but when they get it right and consistently so, they're a very dangerous team. They're a dangerous outfit, and we saw it. And regardless of what anybody would say about the Bulls team, etc., etc. At the end of the day, you still have to go out there and execute. You still have to go out there and do what you have to do. It doesn't matter. They all paid. They all contracted. They all train Monday to Friday and play on Saturday or whatever day it is that they play. So there can be no excuse, and you have to give credit, all the credit for that game to the Pumas, to their coaching staff for uh, empowering the players to be able to dismantle the Bulls team the way that they did. I
Yeah.
mean, it was a point at one stage. It was what 31 points to nil, and it was 29
Yeah.
minutes on the clock. Look, it was for a moment. I thought, no, this must be a dream, but everything just fell. Fall the side of the
But
Pumas, and
that's the
they
thing. I
kept.
felt like at 10-0, they didn't know how to react, because at 10-0, they kick off again. Good take, good go forward ball. Landsberg running onto it.
Mm,
Landsberg, again, one of those players, big game.
yes,
From there, went to Devon Williams, attack the line. And he found the loose head prop lacking in pillar defense straight through,
yeah,
taking them on. Chip, nice little chip over Monet Stain. You can see the legs are tired. The legs are old.
no, eyes finished. Aish. No, look, there's no guarantee on legs for 30-something-year-old in rugby, so you can't blame him. They put him there, right? They let Libok go for Stain.
Yeah.
That's effectively what happened. They chose Monet Stain over Money Libok, and and that's what you get. And that's what you get. But you have to give credit to the Pumas. That play that you're talking about, off the kickoff. It was. I love the way they were willing to play with the ball off the kickoff. It wasn't
Yeah.
just let's just exit. It was. I think they identified that they could put the Bulls under pressure, through carrying the ball, and that's what they did. They were found wanting. Landsberg, he's growing. Geez, I think from the game against the Lions, he's just been
Yeah.
consistently growing, and I think in due course you might see the Lions, recalling him, to back
That's
home.
Marvin Ori's replacement.
Direct. It has to be because man, he's working the lineouts as well, and you can see he was always looking to contest. Even his carries. I think he's got very strong carries. The Lions, the attacking lines that he runs
Yeah.
off nine. To offer himself up as a carrier. And the Bulls were found wanting. At the end of the day, they were found wanting. with all the players that they have, and I still don't buy it about the under 21s and things like that. The fact of the matter is they were found wanting, and I think they are still going to be found wanting. I think they have a yes, they're a good side. Under Jake White, they're a good side. They do their basics well. When they have all their big players, yes, that's fine. But I still believe that they will still be found wanting because they may have a false sense of security. In the sense that they want Super Rugby unlocked and they finish top of the log. But I think, and I'm hoping, that we see a different champion this season.
I mean, even going forward to the next try, sort of the same thing. If you wanna call it like how they can get found out with sort of that little chip over the rush defense. It just shows that they can be outcoached and they can be found out.
Yeah, and also outworked, because I think at the end of the day, that's what it was. Is that the team that's gonna work hard. I think for them, they rely on there's a heavy reliance on Dwayne Vermeulen for them, and you can
Yeah,
see when he's not there, things don't go well. And if I'm the Lions coaching group, looking at semifinals, but I will talk about that in the next episode. But just as a note for now, is that you realize that there's certain positions and players that you can pinpoint and look to nullify, and once you're able to do that, you can start bringing your game in, because they will struggle once you and they are a team that if you can frustrate them, if you keep the ball
yeah.
away from them, I think,
And it
and that's what,
look at if you look at all these tries, sort of what happened before was scrum penalty, line
yeah,
out, good set piece, try.
yeah,
That was a recurring theme, and it also went to the fact that the referee was making these calls.
yeah,
Whereas we look at the Lions game, he wasn't making these calls. Going back to even the technicalities that he was calling, I mean, they had that maul try
yeah.
caught out again.
And I think had that been a different referee and those tries were awarded, you most likely would have seen a Bulls comeback in that
Yeah,
game, because I felt at that moment it was a big momentum sort of shifter. You could sense, watching that game, you could sense that, okay, if that was a try, Bulls are we're gonna feel, look, we're right in this, because there was time on the clock and the Pumas only scored how many points after half time. I think it was what 10
yeah,
additional
just
points
got the
after
other
half
try.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah, to try and a penalty, right? So,
yeah,
10 additional points after half time. So you could argue that, or it was 10-7 actually, the second half. So, look, you give that, had the Bulls been awarded that try, they would have found confidence and said, okay, look, we have time, and this is what we're going to do the whole time. We're going to kick in the corner, maul these guys, and that's what we're going to do. Just stick to our more basics. And they probably would have ground out that one. It would have been a 1 point win for the Bulls, heartbreak for the Pumas. But I'm glad it didn't turn out that way.
yeah.
Again, I'm
Just saying, Engelbrecht also a good performance. He got over for
yeah,
his try, um, in that little try where they had that chip. Obi again
yeah,
lurking. That's how we got it out. It's just all round performance for them. Good set piece. Williams attacking the line. The Bulls, I'm sure a few harsh words were said, and deservingly so.
yeah, deservingly so, because I mean, at the end of the day, you're playing for the Bulls. At the end of the day, it goes down on record. You are the team that lost to the Pumas. You lost to the Pumas 44-14. To even highlight that, it wasn't even a close game where you can say, "Oh, shit, we missed the penalty." No, you got outplayed. They got outplayed
And I
completely.
mean, I haven't read that article. I sort of also just skimmed over it. Them sort of justifying their decision. They threw that young man in at the deep end.
Yeah,
You know, it's hard enough to play as an under 21 playing senior rugby against these guys. Westrad, as a hooker, he can see he's a good scrummaging hooker as well. So you're dealing with props and a hooker, the whole front row that get the hit, that's established dominance and go through. Now you want to change him from loose head to tight head. It's not easy. We saw Nyakani struggle for years. It's not
Yeah.
easy to do this. We look at the Pumas players, they were put in a position to do well. That guy was not put in a position to do well.
And look, for him, he can put that down to the coach's arrogance. I believe, just they thought, look, it's the Pumas. We've beaten them before. We've been here before. We can do this. And shame, poor young man. Look, you can't chastise him because at the end of the day, he was selected. He doesn't select himself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you'd also have to question to some degree the ambition. Yes, you want to play senior rugby, but I mean, if you haven't played there before, you should be brave enough to step up and say, look, coach, this not going to work out. You can't just be a yes man because you want to play. And look, he got found out. His confidence right now he's absolutely broken, because the fact of the matter is this, he probably gets paid more than the Pumas player, being at the Bulls with that Motsepe money, and he got shown up. He got shown up, and now he's got that dark cloud hanging over him, going into the future. That's what we're gonna remember, is that,
Yeah.
unless he grows from that, maybe it's a character building thing for him, but geez,
I mean, we'll see. I mean, coming from winning the under 21, you think you're that guy. Go to Mbombela and they tell you you're not. So I mean,
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see how guys deal with it. I mean, Thomas Tutoya, I think, still struggles when he plays tight head.
he's
Nyakani,
still.
Nyakani's made the transition well.
I think he's the
He,
best. He's the best
yeah,
Joe prop that we have, is Nyakani right now, easily,
yeah.
easily. But yeah,
And
look,
I think that's it for us this week. I think you wanted to discuss one
oh
of our
yeah,
favorite tens getting picked up.
oh man, I got a pleasant surprise. I read an article. Maybe people may have forgotten him, may not know. Innocent Ini Khadebe, is he's been given a shot by Peter de Villiers at the EP Elephants. I just think, look, Peter de Villiers, you have to take your hat off to that guy. Look, as much as you receive criticism when you're still Springbok coach and things like that, look, fact of the matter is that he's one of the most successful Springbok coaches. He achieved a lot.
Yeah,
He understood the group that he had, and everything else is politics involved that we won't get into now. But talking about Innocent Khadebe, look, I feel he's one of the players that was completely and harshly done with by the Dupree and Sons Corporation. When Robert Dupree was the coach of the Sharks, because effectively
they ran him
Innocent
out of
Khadebe,
town.
yeah, they ran him out of town for Robert Dupree's son to come and play flower off, and that was a bust. And on top of that, the kid he had an injury. He wasn't looked after. He couldn't get a contract, and he's been playing club rugby ever since. And now he's got a shot to try to fight his way back. Back into top flight rugby, and I'm pleased for him. He's a hometown boy as well. So we celebrate our own, and look, young black flower off. We don't have many black flowers in this country, and he was one that was promising. I think I remember,
Yeah.
I think there was a game where I went to Ellis Park, saw him play Sharks against the Lions. That is when that Sharks Lions rivalry was hot. Currie Cup game as well. The Lions won, yes, but the play that I saw from him live, it was just, you could just see that this kid is an amazing talent, and easily, he can make that step up. And I felt he was robbed, but now he's got a chance to a path to redemption. Not even redemption, because he doesn't have to redeem himself. It's just he's got a second chance, to prove all the naysayers,
Yeah.
all the people that discarded him, and prove to them that he is the quality player that we know him to be.
Yeah, he shouldn't have been playing club rugby in the first place.
Yeah.
Uh, for me, it goes to one of the things about, I think it's a problem with SA rugby. is players selecting where they go. He went to the
Yeah.
Sharks, fine, he did do well, but ultimately, was that the right decision? Obviously, I don't know what kind of contracts they're being offered and where, but
Mm.
if you look at yourself, you look at the Union, is this the best place for me to succeed?
Mm.
Ultimately, it wasn't. So
Yeah.
coming to the Lions, I actually thought it would have been, you know, a revival for his career, and I thought he would have got a starting place. But they sort of he didn't pass the medical, which
Mm.
it's interesting. It's interesting is how was he starting games for the Sharks, but he can't pass the medical?
Yeah.
And they sort of
Yeah.
said he had the same injury that Butch James had, but they were able to manage it with Butch James. So surely they could be able to do it with him.
Oh, look, let's not sugarcoat it. We all know, and it's not about. Look, we're not trying to play the race card or whatever it is, but we all know that black rugby players get treated and handled differently to white rugby players. That's a matter of fact. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend, and particularly because he's a fly off. You can liken fly off to quarterback in the American NFL. And you see how the black quarterbacks they get the heat. From everywhere in the media and the US media. Because they different. And you see it's the same in terms of fly off. Win lost, win lost I'll leave it at that. Say when last have we seen a black number 10 playing at a high level that is South African? I'll give you the next 10 months to answer that question, because you're gonna be scratching your head to think and remember and think, okay, the last one that I can remember is Kennedy Zimba, and he's Zimbabwean, and he was playing for the Griffins,
Hmm.
and at some point played for the Cheetahs, and then he was a bright prospect, Innocent Hadebe, and I felt like systematically Robert Dupree Senior ensured that that kid does not further develop, whereas he had shown promise for the Sharks at the senior level, where there was no reason to not have him
Mm.
stick at that union and play at number 10. Perhaps he could have made that a success. But going back to what you're saying about the contracting, perhaps for him, the best decision for him would have been to stay at the Lions, because his style of play suits the
Yeah.
the Lions union, in terms of the direction the Lions were going. But he's got a chance now. He's got Peter
He's
de
got a
Villiers. I feel
chance.
Peter de Villiers.
Um, I hope he does well. The diss tracks to
Yeah.
the Sharks are questionable though. But I'm wishing him all the best. I don't know about the rap career, but I'm wishing him all the best.
Yeah. Look, I'm also wishing him all the best. And I hope. Look, we'll see what tournaments come up in terms of the new year. In terms of SA Rugby involving all the unions, because I mean we haven't seen the Griffins, we haven't seen the Falca, we haven't seen the EP
Mm.
Elephants, we haven't seen Border. There's a lot of players out there that are sitting there inactive. They're probably training hard. They're waiting for their chance. So, look, I'm hoping that there's going to be a tournament that's going to include all the unions, and that we'll start seeing him light it up and climb his way back up into and be recognized in SA Rugby, because look, he deserves that shot. And credit to Peter de Villiers. I take my hat off to that guy. Respect, coach.
Respect to that man. Respect to that man. And that's it
Mm-hmm.
for us this week. We'll
Yep.
be getting into the semifinals next week.
Yeah.
Hopefully, once we've got the team sheets, and just looking forward to that one. Looking forward to the final.
Yeah. Same here. Same here. But yeah, like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends, and yeah, keep supporting us. Thank you so much.
And that's it. W Switch Pod. We're out.
Yes.